This week's episode of The Obsessive Viewer is sponsored by Westworld FM, the latest podcast from the Midwest Podcast Network. Westworld FM seeks to dissect the latest episode of HBO's Westworld TV series every week. Join Alex and Nick as they take a deep dive into the latest TV show from producers Jonathan Nolan and J.J. Abrams. New episodes of the podcast are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more the day after the TV show airs. Check out the show at westworld.fm or search for Westworld FM on your favorite podcasting service. And thank you to Westworld FM and the Midwest Podcast Network for sponsoring this week's episode. This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter, and this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find back episodes at ovpodcast.com, find the blog at obsessiveviewer.com, and you can like us on the Facebook and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. And this week on the podcast, I'm joined with returning guest, Robert Fekkes.
Hello.
Hey. And today, what are we talking about?
We are talking about fantastic beasts and where to find them.
Nice. Yes, we are. That is what we're talking about. But first, we're going to do our regular news segment, and then we'll get to our spoiler-free review of Fantastic Beasts, and then we'll round out the episode with Potpourri, which is a section of the podcast where we talk about whatever we want that we've watched recently. But first, at the top of this podcast, I just want to say that me and Tiny, our regular co-host who is not here today, we are going to be at Starbase Indy this weekend. It's the Sunday after Thanksgiving here in Indianapolis for a panel on Sunday morning called Development Hell. It's going to be a lot of fun. We do it every year. Well, we go there every year, and we're on a panel every year. So it's a lot of fun. Go check it out, starbaseindy.com for more details. So, Fekkes, how's it going?
It's going well. It's good.
Nice. Everything good with work and everything?
Yeah, sure.
Good. We had some talk off the air. That's not relevant. So I want to get into news, but real quick, I might not even include this in the final episode, but as a listener of the Obsessive Viewer, I have some questions for you. Just for feedback, because we're closing in on episode 200. Yeah, this is episode 194. And I've been thinking about it in my head, and I've been overthinking it because I'm Matt Hurt. And my question is, do you like the format of the show? Is there anything that you would change as a listener?
I like the format a lot. I don't know that I would change anything. No, I don't know. I enjoy it. It's good listening.
Okay, good. It's. I put you on the spot completely.
You did. I'm out of here. I'm done.
The main thing that I'm thinking about changing is the sensor beeps. I don't know. It's
gonna go R-rated on this.
I don't know.
Think of the children.
I know all the little shits that are listening to this podcast. See, I don't know if I'll keep that in or
well, you should bleep it.
Exactly. So I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I was thinking after episode 200 we might drop the censor beeps, but I don't know. If you're listening to this now, send me a message or tweet me or something and let me know what you think. It's all irrelevant. I don't know. Anyway, like I said, this might not make the final cut. Me and Tiny had a 15-minute long discussion about the election last week that I was like, I'm not going to put it in the episode. Screw it.
So I think everyone's pretty much done hearing about it.
Too. Yep, I was getting tired just listening to us talk about
it.
And I was like we did it at the top of the episode, and then I was going to cut it and put it as the tag on the episode at the end, just so if people don't want to hear it, they can just turn off. And then I got it all edited and got it ready to go, and I was about to hit export, and I was like, it's a couple weeks away. It's a couple weeks back. It's not relevant anymore. Screw it. We're done. So I cut it. So yeah.
Good call.
Thank you. I'm glad that you approve of me cutting stuff out of the podcast.
That's politics.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, let's go into the reason why people are listening to this episode, actual movie and TV discussion. So we have a few news items here, and Mr. Fekkes, Officer Fekkes.
Officer's my dad.
Oh, that was so dumb. The first piece of news we have is that there's going to be an Inhumans TV show from Marvel, and this is after I believe in Phase 3 it was supposed to be an Inhumans movie, and then that was taken off the schedule, and then now it's coming as a TV show, which granted I haven't seen. I'm not current with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, but I've seen the Inhuman storylines in it, and that's if they're going to branch off from that.
It's almost. I'm one episode behind, and to be honest, I'm almost to the point where I'm gonna. And it's not that I don't like the show; it's just it's kind of wearing thin.
Sure,
but it's become Inhumans. Like I feel like it's no longer Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's like Inhumans and co-starring Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay. That's a bummer. And we don't need to get into spoilers, but I think the character's name is Luke, the Inhuman guy that Daisy was all like, "Oh, let's hook up."
Are you talking about the lightning guy? That's Lincoln.
Lincoln. I think it was Lincoln that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I did not like that character at all.
Well, he eventually goes nowhere, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the whole thing was not to my liking. I think that's one of the reasons why I dropped off from watching it, because I was just like, I don't care enough about what's going on to make it a week-to-week thing.
It held my interest for a while, and I was curious with the Ghost Rider, but I don't know. He really didn't grab me like I was hoping to.
Okay,
I guess I don't know.
Sure. So this Inhumans TV show, it's going to be its own series, and it's going to have an IMAX screening for the premiere. What do you think about that? Is that something that'll make you at least interested in checking that out? Or how are you with the Inhumans? Are you interested in them at all?
Well, I don't read the Inhumans books. There's currently a series going on right now that's kind of like building up to an X-Men versus Inhumans event. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of read the X-Men portion of it, but I'm not vastly knowledgeable about the Inhumans. So, no, I'm not really excited about it, nor showing it in IMAX will probably not get me to go watch. I'll probably skip that event.
Okay, I see. Have you gone to any like IMAX event screenings of TV shows? The only thing I'm really thinking of is like Sherlock and Game of Thrones. Did theirs?
No, me and the wife wanted to go to the Game of Thrones ones, but something happened where we just couldn't get into it. I don't know. I forget.
Gotcha. I remember the Game of Thrones thing was really cool. Like,
yeah,
it was really cool to see.
For me to pay money to go see a TV show, it would have to be something of high quality like Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. Like, I would not pay money to go see like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. equivalent on IMAX.
That's a very good point. Yeah. If they came out and they did the Game of Thrones thing, I actually wouldn't put it past them to do this, but in the lead up to season 7, if they did the same thing and they screened the last 2 episodes of season 6, the Battle of the Bastards and the Winds of Winter.
Yeah, Winds of Winter, yeah.
If they did that, I would go see that.
If they showed all 10 episodes, I'd do it.
Interesting.
I did the Avengers marathon back with the first Avengers movie, and that was damn near 13 hours. Yeah, that wasn't bad. Huh. I thought that was fun. I had a good time with that. So if they wanted to say, yeah, we're going to put all 10 episodes in the theater for an event, I'd be like, yeah, I'll get behind that. I'd pay $40 for that.
Interesting. See, I would not commit to that. I would just want to see Battle of the Bastards on the big screen.
Turns out you'd get to see Battle of the Bastards eventually episode 9.
Exhausted from sitting there.
No, you'd be fine. Exhausted from sitting there all day. Like,
exactly.
I'm so tired.
Yeah. That's most of my day in general is just sitting there and becoming exhausted. There's way too much truth in that statement. Okay, so that's interesting. I probably won't check out Inhumans unless I am like No, I don't see a future where
it's a hard sell for me.
It is, yeah. Really,
there's too much good content out there for me, and I really think it would end up being an equivalent of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and not so much storyline, but quality.
Right.
Which Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was not a bad show. It's just
but it's a network action.
It's static
series
in the background of the MCU. So
there, yeah, it is not as intrinsically tied with the Marvel Cinematic Universe as
I was hoping.
Yeah, as I would think it would be. And what's such a shame about that is that they don't need to be tied to it, because they've shown on the Netflix series that they don't need to be tied to it that much, but they can still be engaging and interesting. But I think part of that may just be they're beholden to network TV standards, so they can't really, not that they would need to do that kind of dark tone or that
no, but you can still make it like it. There was a couple episodes that was a bit cheesy, which it's fine. I enjoyed. What are we? Season 4 or 5?
Season 4, I think.
I enjoyed the first 3 seasons, and I didn't think any episode was particularly bad in this season. It's just my interest is waning.
Yeah, I agree. Much like I'm sure the listeners' interest is waning in this discussion, so we should move on to the next news beat.
Good call.
Right? See?
Transitions.
Yeah. So anyway, the next piece of news is that Legendary Entertainment has acquired the rights to make a movie and TV series. So they've acquired the movie and TV rights to Frank Herbert's Dune science fiction series. Do you have any relation to Dune? Have you read the books? Seen the movies?
I've never read the books, never seen the movies. But it's one of those classic sci-fi things where, while I may not want to be introduced to the old stuff, my interest might be piqued to be introduced to a new take on it, I guess, which is weird because I've not been introduced to the original take, but something that would introduce me into the lore, because I hear nothing but good things. Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons why I haven't really sought out like the original stuff. I always get in my head where I need to read the source material. I need to read the novel first. I need to read whatever the source is before I get into a film adaptation or anything. And not that I believe it was David Lynch. Not that his adaptation is that, well, I don't know if I would say it's widely celebrated. I think that it's the best that they got. Because I don't think a lot of people, I think that it's not the greatest thing ever from what I understand. And the documentary, Hodorowski's Dune, kind of talked about a visual, what would have been an incredible feat of filmmaking if he would have gotten the film off the ground, I guess. I'm actually planning on watching that documentary in the lead up to going to Starbase Indy this weekend, for the Development Hell panel. But anyway, Dune is a sci-fi novel that I would like to check out, and a series that I would like to check out, but I don't have the time to really read as much as I would like to. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious to see what comes of this deal for the rights, because from what I understand, Dune is a massive thing that I believe it even influenced Star Wars and The Matrix, and it's very influential science fiction, and I'm a fan of science fiction, so I am.
Sounds like it'd be right up your alley.
Exactly. Oh yeah. But then again, so did Interstellar. So,
God, come on.
No, I'm not saying it as a dig. I'm saying that as literally, yeah, it really did. For those who don't know, Dune is set in a distant future. It tells the story of Paul Atreides. See, that's why I'm not too in tune with it. Whose family accepts control of the desert planet Arrakis. As the only producer of a highly valuable resource, control of Arrakis is highly contested among the noble families. After Paul and his family are betrayed, the story explores themes of politics, religion, and man's relationship to nature as Paul leads a rebellion to restore his family's control of the planet. That comes from a /film article. So yeah, it sounds
intriguing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can get behind the idea. It's just, I've never been introduced to any of the films or the books. So you put that in comic book form, I'll be all about it.
Sure. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. Hopefully they can get something off the ground to where it's, a success. I mean, we are living in a franchise, a genre franchise like culture right now.
It sounds like it'd be something beneficial of like a HBO series.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting. Maybe when Game of Thrones ends.
Never.
If it ever ends.
Because they're going to do the prequels next. And
Do you think they'll really do a prequel series?
No.
I don't think so either.
Maybe a prequel movie. But at the most. But prequel series, no. I don't see it happening.
Me neither. And that's just how it is these days in general. Anytime a show gets toward the end of its run, there's always talk of, is there going to be a spinoff? Right. Or is there going to be a prequel? It's like
Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
And Joey.
And Joey. Yeah. So anyway, to round out the news segment, Cars 3. That's a terrible way to introduce it. Pixar revealed the teaser trailer for Cars 3, the latest in their Cars franchise. And Fekkes, you haven't seen the trailer yet, and you told me off air that you, sir, have never watched the Cars movies.
That is true, and I'm a huge Pixar fan, but something, I don't know, maybe it's my aversion to racing, maybe it's my hatred for Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing about Cars has ever piqued my interest, and I just couldn't care less.
Your aversion to racing, that's interesting, because you're a police officer for I don't know if you want me to say, a town
where a speedway is present.
A town which in its town limits has a
500-mile race. Right. I hate racing. I hate it.
Interesting. I threw the teaser into the Facebook group and we got some responses. Matt and Draco said that maybe I'm the only one, but I feel this series is already played out. I don't have high expectations. And he also
the second one wasn't very well received, right?
It wasn't. Like the first one is this interesting. I would recommend checking out this is your homework. Watch the first Cars movie.
Do you have it?
I do. It's right up there.
Well, yep. I don't know. I might watch it then.
I'm
Maybe
staring
I'll
at it
borrow
right now.
Yeah, good.
Actually, no, I'm not. I don't think I own that.
Oh no!
Oh no! I have it on DVD. It's right there. It's not on Blu-ray.
I can't watch it on DVD.
Yeah,
what am I, a caveman?
But no, the first one is like a really interesting kind of nuanced character piece about. I mean, it's a Pixar movie of an arrogant character being brought down and realizing his innate goodness, apparently, or I guess would be how I would phrase that. But it's also under this. The story is about finding your roots and living, abandoning like a big lifestyle for like a small town kind of thing. And that's a theme that kind of speaks to me. Is like this kind of small community, kind of fish out of water, like big city person in a small community and learning things about himself. It's that type of story. And I don't know. I loved it.
Well, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
I just never got around to watching it.
Yeah. But like you said, the second one is a big departure. It is an international spy movie where Larry the Cable Guy is at the front and center, and
that makes sense with the story progression to me.
Yeah, they're night and day. They really are night and day. I do not own Cars 2. I will eventually because I want to own all the Pixar movies. But anyway, the rest of the comments are Tony Troxel said, enjoyed the heck out of the first Cars, gravely disappointed by the second, but I will admit this is a hell of a hook for the third, which brings me into the talk of the actual teaser. It's interesting because it shows like I think it's a night race, just clips of it. And if anything, the animation of Pixar movies in this setting where it's, cars on a track, it just looks just freaking awesome. But this trailer shows that one small thing can change everything, and it shows Lightning McQueen crashing, and it's just like that's
Should be crippled.
I don't know, maybe.
how would a crippled car work? Would they like get prosthetic legs?
I would.
Wheels?
There was a comment online, I think on Reddit, that was like, I hope that they go the Talladega Nights route with this, which would be kind of awesome. But yeah, I don't know what's in store for it, but I think that it looks kind of interesting.
What's the release date for this?
I believe it'll be that. I don't know. Maybe 2018.
It just
or summer 2016. 2017.
It makes me sad that this will be Cars 3 and we're still waiting on Incredibles 2.
Yeah, and they're working on it.
I know they're working on it, but that was back in like 2005 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so long ago.
That's the thing. Like, and to round out the comments, longtime listener Yasmin said, I liked the first, but I didn't even realize there was a second, which I think a lot of people wish that they had the same experience, essentially, because the second one is not good. But anyway, this that brings me to talking kind of like it is depressing that we're getting Cars 3, but it's sad that we're getting Cars 3, even Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4. All of these sequels are coming out, and like that's what I think is a shame, is that they're not. They're going back to
they
sequels.
Still produce original films. Like we got, is it Moana? Is that how you pronounce?
Moana, which I'm hearing
incredible things about.
But it's not Pixar. It's Disney Animation.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
And I've heard ridiculously good things.
Yeah, so have I.
And that's kind of, I mean, granted they're both in the Disney family, but I mean, Pixar started out making really incredible original things, and they've done that recently with Inside Out, and it's just a shame that they're going back to sequels. And I don't know,
a lot about money.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't deny that.
And I will admit that, they knocked it out of the park with Inside Out, an original movie and everything, and then
they did Dinosaur, didn't they?
The Good Dinosaur.
The Good Dinosaur. Yeah. I didn't see The Good Dinosaur, but
it's not good.
And I've heard that, but it still shows that they're trying to make original content. So.
That's true. But also, The Good Dinosaur is I mean, it's barely. This is harsh, but it's barely even an original movie. It's like an amalgam of tropes from animated films of Disney's past, essentially. Like there are bits and pieces here and there that's like, oh, this is that exact scene from this classic animated film
with a dinosaur
and a stream instead of another thing. And it's just like, it's it's rough. But also the problem with that is that they had a troubled production with it. Like they scrapped it like halfway through production, had to start fresh or something like that. And I don't know. That's
a shame. Anything with dinosaurs automatically gets my interest. So and I really wanted to see it. But I never got around to it, obviously. But I've heard such mediocre reviews of it.
Yeah. And that's one thing that like I want to own all of the Pixar movies because I'm insane.
Are you going to get Airplanes?
No, because that is not a Pixar movie. That is a Disney straight to DVD knockoff
I
thing.
want to say that was in the theater.
A Disney. It wasn't a Pixar movie though. It wasn't a Pixar Films. Yeah.
It was the equivalent of like the Ewok movies to the Star Wars films.
Yeah, sort of like that. Yeah. Speaking of, oh no, this is way too harsh. Speaking of franchises that had entries in them that were considerably of lesser quality than their predecessors.
That's a very polite way of doing it. I like that.
And we'll get into our discussion, but we're here today to review Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
There's strange things going on all over the city. The people behind this are not like you and me. There's a hidden society. It goes back centuries.
Yesterday, a wizard entered New York with a case. A case full of magical creatures. And unfortunately, some have escaped.
Okay, so Fantastic Beasts. Fekkes, you are, of the many people in my life who are big fans of Harry Potter, You are among the biggest fans.
Take pride in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what was your, I guess not expectations, because we touched on that when we did the...
we've had a couple conversations about that. And like I've always said, it's been a roller coaster for me. And it was funny waiting in line to get into it, because me and Cassie had gotten in there early for a couple of reasons. One, it was, the first weekend for this major franchise, and two, AMC has redone all their
I was going to ask if Southern Plaza did that.
Yeah, they did.
Nice.
And so the seating is considerably less now, which is fine. I get that. And by the way, reclining seats are the greatest.
Oh my
in the
God,
world.
they're incredible.
So I was sitting or standing in line waiting to get into the theater, and my wife is just as big of Harry Potter fan, if not bigger than me, and she's giddy with joy, and she's like, "Are you excited?" And I just had this feeling of meh.
Interesting.
Not really, I guess, because and I think we had touched on it the last time I was here. I was turned off by the whole 5-film deal.
I don't know if we actually talked about that, because I don't think it had been. Well, no, I think we did.
I think we touched on it. But anyway, yeah, the whole 5-film deal had kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. It just seemed like a cash grab. So, walking into the movie, I was not overly excited, which is weird, because it is a Harry Potter franchise movie or universe movie. So
interesting. Yeah, I had kind of an opposite reaction going into it. I don't know. I'm a blind consumer to this franchise culture we're in, where I hear that and I think, well, I don't know if that's really fair, because I hear that about Avatar and I'm like, oh my God, James Cameron, stop.
Right.
But with Fantastic Beasts, I'm thinking okay, well, J.K. Rowling is at the helm, writing wise. She's proven herself to be a very good writer. With
has she though?
Books. She has.
She's had 7 good books,
right? And I loved the books. I absolutely loved the Harry Potter books, and I loved how cohesive a universe she created throughout those 7 books. And I just adored that. I remember reading the last book and just being freaking overcome with just how well thought out it is.
Everything just fits perfectly
absolutely
together. There's no little plot hole here and there. Well, you could have done this. What?
Yeah, no big Deus Ex Machina or anything.
Right.
It's there are things that are seated in the first 2 books or the first few books that just come into play in a huge way at the end. That's just it's incredible. So knowing that, I'm like, okay, well, Fantastic Beasts, it's a prequel set in America. It is a story in that universe, and they just came out and said, oh, hey, it's going to be 5 movies. And I know that she wrote the first movie, so I'm thinking, is she going to do the same thing with a movie franchise? And that kind of had me a little excited. And I like that world so much, even though the movies aren't as good as the books. I like that world so much that I was excited to go back to it and see this new perspective on it. So that was the expectation. And first of all, how did you see the movie? You saw it at an AMC theater.
We saw it in 3D.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I really dislike 3D films. This one, it kind of worked for me. There's only been a couple movies where I walked out thinking, you know what, the 3D kind of enhanced my viewing of it, and I'd give this one of those viewings. It was okay. There were some fun little takes with the 3D, nice. And it didn't have that typical darkened look for the 3D films.
See, I saw it in 2D, and I thought that it did. It seemed tinted for 3D in my screening, because I was in 2D and I thought the lighting is terrible in the movie.
No, I didn't have that experience with
interesting
at our showing. Yeah, it seemed just as vibrant as a 2D film, and yeah, like I said, it's one of the few that have actually kind of enhanced my viewing of it.
Okay, I think that with my experience with that, it may have been the color palette that they used for 1920s New York, because it's very there's a darkness all around it, like in terms of just the color,
a little drab tint.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, on the cusp of the Great Depression, or I think it's a few years away from the Great Depression, but it's like that era. It's like an older era.
Literally 3 years away from the Great Depression.
Right. Yeah. 3 years away from this crash. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay. So anyway,
29 was the crash.
Yeah. I've seen Boardwalk Empire.
Okay. I haven't. So
it's 4 seasons are good. 5th is not. Anyway. So yeah, anyway, first of all, so I saw it in 2D, and I have to say, I don't know if this is going to affect my review. I really don't, but I have to rant for a moment about my theater experience.
You can't let the theater experience mar your relationship to the film.
It's not, because the issues that I have with the movie aren't because some what are the adjectives I want to use?
I don't know. I'm
how
curious.
many expletives do I want to use? No, this girl in the row in front of me. I saw it at a Regal theater, which also has upgraded their seating, and personally, I prefer that better than the AMC ones. They're a little bit more comfortable, and although I will say that I feel like the AMC theaters have I don't know if they've increased their screen size or upgraded their screens too, but when I was at Heartland, I thought the screen was huge compared to the Regal theater that I frequent.
That's
anyway.
in Caston, right?
Yeah,
I haven't been up there for a while.
Okay. I think that theater is actually also doing Dolby Atmos theater. They were in the process of upgrading to that. I really want to check that out. But anyway, there was this girl. I don't know if she was an adult. I don't know if she was a kid. I'm inclined to think that she was like a teenager, and I really hope that her teenage years are incredibly awkward and painful because the entire movie, 90% of the movie, she was on her phone.
Oh no.
Like texting. And it wasn't like I saw her texting and the light was like right in my peripheral vision that I really thought about standing up, not confronting her because I don't want to be the creepy 30-year-old talking to a teenager in a theater telling her to
I am
whatever.
So the opposite. I confront people all the time in the theater.
I can't.
I tell them to shut up. I don't all the time. I have no problem doing it.
I can't. And I think that's why I can't be a police officer.
I don't do it threateningly. I just am like,
sure.
Hey, could you be quiet? I'm watching the movie. Only a couple times has it escalated where they got to be pricks about it. I'm like, Hey, look.
See, I go to the movies alone all the time.
Me too.
Okay, well, that pokes holes in my thing. I have just no backbone. I would rather complain about it on a podcast afterward.
80% of the times I go to the movies by myself.
Yeah.
You're not going to ruin my theater experience.
Anyway, so this girl was on her phone about 90% of the movie from the moment it started, and I'm like, and she's there with a group of people, so it's like they were watching the movie, and I'm thinking like, does she have so little self-awareness that she doesn't realize that the light is like people can see the light of the damn phone? Like the people that you're with can see it and are probably distracted by it. And then obviously no one said anything to her because it was the whole movie. But there was one moment where there's a mating dance scene that we'll get into in the review. She took her phone out and she recorded it on Snapchat and sent it on Snapchat to all of her friends. And I'm like, what? And what's even more aggravating about that is that's the second time in my life that I've been in a movie theater where someone has taken a Snapchat of a movie and sent it without
proper consent from the filmmakers.
That and also without consideration to other people around them. I'm just baffled by that behavior.
Yeah, I can't fathom ever thinking like people aren't going to mind this.
Yeah. And like I just in that moment, I've said this before, and I will think this every time instead of confronting them like a grown adult. I just wish I had a superpower. Like, I was so agitated. I was sitting there thinking, like, if I had a superpower, or if I had, like, wizarding powers, I would curse her so that she would never, like, I would cast a spell to destroy her phone in her hand so it doesn't turn on. But I would also put a spell on her that any phone that she touches, any cell phone, any smartphone will not work if she touches it.
I believe the spell you would be looking for would be Reducto. You're welcome.
Isn't that the spell?
It's a spell.
Reducto.
Okay. You're welcome.
They didn't have smartphones in Harry Potter.
No, it's a spell to break things. Not cell
gotcha.
phones in general.
Reducto. Okay.
Jesus.
Gotcha. No, I'm thinking of a spell to make her not be able to use any electronic device for the rest of her life.
Avada Kedavra.
I was thinking that the whole movie. I was like, Avada Kedavra. But yeah, it was really irritating. I was just, it was irritating. But, it didn't necessarily spoil the movie for me. So let's go into our actual review of the movie.
Okay.
So the movie is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It is about Newt
Scamander.
I'm going to read the IMDb plot summary.
Okay.
Real quick. The adventures of writer Newt Scamander in New York's secret community of witches and wizards 70 years before Harry Potter reads his book in school. And, Okay. I'll start by saying that I did like the movie. I thought that it was I thought it was fun. There are moments in this movie that are pretty fun. The first beast we're introduced to, the little black furry beast.
Yeah,
with the it looks like a duckbill.
Right, it looks like a small little duckbill platypus.
Yeah, and it's obsessed with shiny things, so it's chasing things.
It's in the book.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Nice.
Hagrid introduces the characters to that beast, I believe in the third book, and it's killing me. Right, it's killing me that the name of the beast is escaping me right now, but
it's not like it's not Nibbler.
Niffler. There it is.
There you go.
Yeah, Niffler.
Yeah,
the whole Niffler sequence was great.
Oh yeah. At that point, I was like, I am in love with this little creature.
Yeah. I want a Niffler.
Yeah, it was honestly, for me, I likened it to BB-8 or R2-D2.
Sure.
That it kind of resonated with me in that way. To bring up the Star Warses. But there are some issues I had with the movie that I thought that it was, like I said, I had fun with it. I thought it was enjoyable. I would even say the first half of the movie, it was slow. It took its time to get to anywhere that I was really interested in. And really, overall, I gotta say, I think that I was not crazy about Eddie Redmayne in the movie.
Oh, I liked him.
Really? Like, about 3/4 of the movie, I was like, I'm not invested in that character. I'm not on board. Like, I was more interested in, is it Dan Fogler?
Yeah, Dan Fogler.
Yeah, his character, because he was emoting.
He had a great turn.
Oh, he was fantastic.
Loved him in that.
Oh yeah, but Eddie Redmayne was just kind of flat. He was kind of just, like, he had like some little quirks here and there, but it wasn't enough to really carry the movie for me. I thought that it was just kind of, he didn't really do much. He didn't really react well to any situation. He was just kind of even keeled in his, like, kind of shy, reserved way. And it didn't do anything for me, for the character. What did you think of the characters and the overall movie and everything?
The overall, I would say it was pretty good. I would say fairly good. Probably the exact same thing, I guess. It didn't blow my hair back. It wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen. I had a lot of fun with it. Yes, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. And I'll get into my hopes for the future with the franchise a little bit later on. But I enjoyed Eddie Redmayne. I thought he was a fun, quirky character. He's the kind of guy that would, I thought he did a good job emphasizing that he has a stronger relationship to these magical beasts than he does with humans, so he doesn't relate as well with other wizards.
Sure.
So I thought he did a good job playing that off, but I thought Dan Fogler was probably was a better character for me. I really enjoyed him, and I've been a fan of his for a while. I think he's been fun in some of his projects. So I was happy to see him. First of all, I was happy to see him get cast in this big movie.
Oh yeah,
and I thought he did a great job, and his character payoff at the end was great too. So
yeah, absolutely. And he, I've been a fan of his since like. Did you ever see the movie? Oh, what is it called? The 80s one night teen movie.
Can't Hardly Wait.
No.
Oh wait, that's not the 80s. That's
right.
The 90s.
The one with Chris Pratt and Anna Faris and I'm going
to say no then because
Topher Grace.
I know which one you're talking about, but I didn't see it.
The name of it is the name of like an 80s pop song. Oh man, I'm gonna look that up because that's gonna. Teresa Palmer's in it. This is one of those times where I know everything about the movie except the damn title. Oh man, I'm so mad. I have to look this up. I'm so angry.
You can be even more mad when you read it. Like, of course, that's the name.
Exactly. Take me home tonight. Take me home tonight. Why did I not know that?
Well, it happens. We all have brain farts.
Oh, totally.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun like one night teen party movie.
My introduction to Dan Fogler came with Fanboys.
Oh yeah.
And I loved him in that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, his character is great. The female characters were fun too, especially the sister. I had a lot of fun with her.
The mind reader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Oculumens. Mind reader. Get out of here with that. And I like Colin Farrell as Graves. I thought I love Colin Farrell.
Me too.
And it's fun to see him and stuff like this. Mm-hmm. He plays kind of a good brooding bad guy.
He does. He's a good, like you said, he's a good brooding bad guy. He's good with those types of roles. Yeah. I liked him in the movie. But it reached a point where like when we're kind of shown what his arc is in the movie, like what him dealing with another character and kind of trying to get something out of another character throughout the movie, or kind of guiding another character essentially. I was just kind of like, I felt like the writing wasn't, didn't get there quite the way that I would have liked it to, because it seemed like the first 45 minutes in the movie was all, okay, Newt coming to New York, and then there's some very interesting stuff about the world of New York in 1926, in the wizarding community. And then we're introduced to like the American kind of, legal, whatever it's called, for magic. And then we're introduced to
the Ministry of Magic in the Americas.
Yeah. And then by the time we get to Graves, his whole plot line, it's just like, it felt like it wasn't eased in properly. There wasn't enough cohesiveness in those first 45 minutes to kind of really get me on board with so many new things at once. Does that make any sense? Did I explain that in an even less cohesive way?
Yeah, I think you did. And I don't know. I kind of disagree. I thought the build up with Graves into what his character's what's the word I'm looking for? His motives. His motives were. I thought it was built up nicely. Little touches here and there, especially with him handing Credence the Deathly Hallows sign. When he handed that, if
that's what that was.
Yeah, and you're supposed to know. You're supposed to know, Matt, that Grindelwald was big on the Deathly Hallows, obsessed with the Deathly Hallows. So as soon as you see that transpire, you know, well, there's some nefarious dealings with his motives. So,
and see, I think that may boil down to exactly what I had most of a problem with the movie was, because it's a prequel to the Harry Potter franchise, but it's not that it needs to be because it's in the same universe, but it's not accessible outside of the Harry Potter franchise.
I'll tell you what, that's what sold me on liking this movie.
Really?
That there was so many things that were it rewarded me for being such a nerd about Harry Potter.
Sure.
And I loved that about it.
I can respect that, but I disagree with it. I had an opposite reaction because I'm a fan of the Harry Potter franchise. I'm a fan of the Harry Potter books, but it's been a couple years since I've read the books. It's been a couple years since I've seen the movies, and I feel like I would have gotten a lot more out of the movie had I rewatched the 8 movies.
Maybe you should have done that. Maybe you should have done your homework.
And I should have, maybe, but also, if I can't go into the movie with, like, having seen all the movies and read all the books and still feel that disconnect, maybe it's, I don't know, because, like, I was struggling to remember, okay, what exactly is the history with the,
Deathly Hallows?
No, I can't, I'm gonna struggle pronouncing his name.
Grindelwald?
Grindelwald. Yeah.
Do you need a refresher? I'll give you a refresher.
Sure, yeah.
Grindelwald was expelled from Durmstrang for having some bad experiments. When he was at this point obsessed with the Deathly Hallows and immortality, so he goes to live at Godric's Hollow, where the original stories took place. At Godric's Hollow, he becomes friends with Albus Dumbledore. So they both become obsessed with the Deathly Hallows, and both of them have an obsession with why is the wizarding world in the shadows when we could easily be ruling the humans. Grindelwald had more of a dictator view of it, while Albus Dumbledore had more of a view of we can help humanity. There was a falling out over their ideals, and it came to a head when there was a big argument, and it upset Dumbledore's younger sister, Ariana. And in doing so, there was an accident where Ariana was killed, and Grindelwald was blamed for the killing, and he fled. And after he fled Godric's Hollow is when he became the Dark Wizard that wanted to overthrow the wizarding world. So that started his... Which is where
we meet the story here.
We meet the story where he has already committed atrocities in the wizarding world. He's gotten a following. The movie takes place in 26. I want to say that's like 20 or 30 years after the death of Ariana.
Okay. I wish that was better explained in the beginning of the movie for people that aren't.
But there's a lot of backstory to explain in an already almost 2.5 hour movie.
There is, and that's true. However, what we got instead was a bunch of newspapers on the screen.
Right.
That did not, like, I got the gist of it, that there is Grindelwald out there that is carrying out these atrocities, essentially. That's what I got, and I also got that there was an article about how is soccer just Muggles Quidditch. Yeah. I thought that was nice. But also, it's like I would have liked maybe. I don't know. Maybe
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so, at some point, it's almost a fault to how intricate the universe is.
Exactly.
And there's just so much detail in the universe. You really do have to study. I mean, there's a lot of backstory in Harry Potter, and it looks like that she's going to continue with having this intricate universe with these films. So,
and see, I am all for expanding that intricate universe. I really, really am. But I think that what I maybe would have preferred was her to write 5 Fantastic Beasts novels and then have someone adapt them into films, because she has such a keen eye for detail in the novels
and making it easy
and making it easily accessible,
right,
and in creating this world that you can disappear into. And in writing a movie, there is such a difference between creating a world in a novel and creating or expanding upon an existing world in a film. And I think that without that room to really grow and to really fill in the details of it, I think that that's a fault for the Fantastic Beasts franchise at the start, because we don't get much in terms of what, like, this, not necessarily the state of the world, because we get a lot of good background for the state of the world, despite not knowing, not being briefed on the main motivations or the history of Grindelwald. But to see, when it comes to like Newt and to, there was another example that is fleeing from me now. Newt's story, it seems kind of, I don't know, just, okay, he came to New York for a specific purpose, but that purpose is in Arizona, and there wasn't enough, like, I spent a lot of the movie up until the scene where they're in the briefcase that's hinted at in the trailer. I'd spent a lot of time thinking, like, okay, well, what is he doing here? Like, what's his deal? What's up with Newt? And I feel like we didn't really get that addressed that well for me to really latch on to the character. Plus, Eddie Redmayne's performance didn't do much for me personally. So I don't know. I just think that there was a lack of detail that I wish would have been there.
I get your complaint, and I think maybe one of the faults can lie into where they decided to start this franchise, because clearly the rest of the franchise is not going to be a Fantastic Beasts 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. It looks like it's going to be, in fact, I think it's already confirmed this is going to chronicle the plight of Grindelwald in the Wizarding World and come to an end at his downfall.
Right.
So
it's going to span like 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
1945 is when the last movies supposedly take place, that's 1945 is when the big duel between Grindelwald and Dumbledore occurs.
Right.
So if they would have started the movie off with perhaps the story of Grindelwald and Dumbledore and Godric's Hollow and made that the first movie,
that would have been
maybe
cool.
That would have done a little bit better to introduce the audience into where we are in this spectrum or in this timeline in the Wizarding World. So I get your complaint.
Yeah, and I think that I agree with you there that would have been a good place to start the franchise. And I think I read that the plan is or the idea is that each movie is going to be like Fantastic Beasts and something. Which if it's chronicling that story and the mythology, I don't. How much are beasts going to really come into play?
Is that confirmed?
I want to say it is.
Because one of the things walking out of the film which made me happy and excited for the rest was I had the feeling that, because originally I thought, okay, this is going to be Fantastic Beasts. All 5 of them are going to be Fantastic Beast films. And I didn't know that it was going to chronicle the timeline of the Grindelwald plague. I don't know. Despair.
Sure.
So walking out of the era, good. Walking out of the film knowing that that's where the series was headed, that makes me excited. So I don't know how they would fit. Then again, I'm not the writer of the film, but I don't know how they would fit Fantastic Beasts in all aspects. Are we going to follow Newt Scamander through all 5 of these films? Clearly, they've already cast Dumbledore in the next one, so he's going to be in it. So right. I'm now, my curiosity is piqued, my excitement is piqued. I'm excited to see where they're going to take the franchise now.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. So Eddie Redmayne said at one point, they asked him about the sequels and how they would be titled. And he said, I did actually ask that question to David Yates and David Heyman yesterday, and the answer is Fantastic Beasts will remain in the title if we go forward, and then it'll be and the Fantastic Beast and the. That's from November 18th. So a few days ago from this recording. So, yeah, I mean, sure.
Hey, look, if she can write it, and she's going to be the writer, so I have my trust in J.K. Rowling. I feel like she'll be able to make it work. She made this one work for me.
Okay, and that's fair. And I'm not saying
I'm not saying this is an amazing film.
Right.
I had fun with it. And I was almost probably destined to enjoy it just because it is in the Harry Potter universe, which I love so much.
Yeah, and I
did. There are some problems that we're going to discuss that I have with the film.
Yeah, we'll dig into more of that in spoilers, but I think for me, and it's important to remember, I did have fun with the movie. eventually.
You hated it. You hated this film.
I did not hate the movie.
You have been tweeting nothing but death threats at Eddie Redmayne for the last 5 hours.
And then he's just responded in a complete monotone,
mumble.
Yeah. No, I did enjoy the movie, and once it reaches a certain level or a certain point where the action becomes more relevant and the pacing becomes more quickened, I was on board with it. I was enjoying it, and I came away from the movie really feeling like this was a decent start to a franchise that I think could go some really interesting places. And apparently, to kind of circle back to one of the questions you had, I don't believe, like, it hasn't been confirmed yet or not, but there's a chance that Newt isn't going to be like the central character through every single movie, which I think would be a good idea.
I agree. Obviously, given how it ends, I don't think you can just abandon the character.
Right.
But I don't think he needs to be the focal point either. So
I agree. And I think that's one of my problems with it too, is that I think that, and maybe this is just because I'm so comfortable with how Harry Potter was handled, I think they need a Harry Potter, and I don't mean that in the sense of...
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I just mean a central character to
I disagree
follow.
with you.
Really?
I like jumping from one area in the wizarding world to another. Mm-hmm. You know, the next one's going to be set in France, so
Have they confirmed that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we're going to see a whole new aspect of the wizarding world. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I almost see it as like an anthology version of a Harry Potter series.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I'm behind that. I don't need a central character to follow through 5 movies.
Okay.
I have a central storyline, and that is the Grindelwald Wars.
Okay.
So I'm behind that.
I can respect that, and I think when the sequel comes out, I might, maybe I'll be more receptive to that once I see how it is. And I mean, I'm all for anthology
Right.
stories, but anyway, yeah, I think that's, we'll see where it goes. I think that it was a good introduction. There are some elements of it that I was really interested in particular, kind of how it's expanded some of the mythology of the greater wizarding world, like the concept of I think they're called New Salemers. I thought that was freaking awesome.
That, yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say, I thought the movie got a little dark for being...
It did.
Yeah. For being almost a child's franchise, there was some deep and dark references with this.
Totally. And I mean, the Harry Potter series got dark too, but it gradually.
Yeah.
Yeah. This kind of starts out I mean, it starts out a little dark.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah. But just the idea of the New Salemers, I thought was just it's really cool.
It's so American.
It is.
It's so American.
Oh yeah, and just I mean, it fits so well.
It does. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's beasts. Anyway,
God damn it.
I know, but yeah, I loved that. I really did. Although, and so the beasts themselves, visual effects, I thought were pretty good.
Yeah.
For the most part. Some of them
were rough.
They were, yes.
Some were rough.
There's a scene where Eddie Redmayne pets a creature like with an elongated face, I think, sort of like a horse, I think. And it's just the way it's shot and the way it's done. It's like he's hesitant because he doesn't want his face in the CGI of it. It's so weird, and I don't know. I feel like if they're throwing that much money at a movie, they should really be able to have, quality effects. And it's not even just the creatures. It's like there's a scene where Scamander and I'm pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scamander and Goldstein. What is her name?
Tina?
Tina. Where they're on the roof of a building, and it's like it is like egregiously bad. Like the backdrop in the whole area around them has that kind of kind of gray color palette, 1920s New York color palette to it. But like, it'll switch from a shot of Eddie Redmayne and a shot of her, Catherine Weatherston, I believe is her name, and it'll switch over from them, and they're facing each other, and like when it shows her, like half of her face is shrouded in just like heavy shadow, and then the same side of his face when they switch over to him would be completely colorful and with light, and it's like it did not feel like an authentic thing. It reminded me of like those scenes that I railed against in Independence Day Resurgence, where it's just like really bad green screen.
So obviously CGI. Yeah, I will give you that. Some of the effects, and I'm sure it's hard to recreate a 1920s New York digitally, because obviously they're not going to build the sets for. It
is, but I think the problem is the color palette they used for it. It was it felt like a kind of almost Sin City-esque, kind of like not like that style, but like that kind of darkness to it. Or maybe I'm not thinking of the right thing.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Maybe Road to Perdition a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of gray.
That fits.
Yeah. That, and I don't know. When I think of Harry Potter and I think of the wizarding world, I think of these really inventive things, like just the fact, like going through Hogwarts for the first time and seeing like the paintings with the moving images on them, and seeing all of like our introduction to the magic world is so, my memory of it at least, is vibrant and colorful and interesting and whimsical and everything. And here we have just some of the like, it's like spells in a somewhat noirish tone, and I don't know, it just didn't fit
work
for me.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to detract from my enjoyment of the film, but I see. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I don't know, that was a problem I had with it, but like I said, once the plot got going, and we won't spoil it, we'll save that for our spoiler section, but once the plot got moving and we got a quicker pace, I was more on board with it, even though this annoying freaking person kept tweeting. Snapchat, yeah. Oh, but anyway, but I enjoyed it. I did. I enjoyed it for the most part. I think that it could have been a lot better, and it had some faults, but it's not. It's not going to make my top 10 list.
No, not mine either.
But it makes me curious to see where they go from here.
It made me excited for the franchise.
Yeah. And it's important to remember, at least for me, mentally, that I wasn't crazy about the first Harry Potter movie. I saw the first Harry Potter movie.
It's hard for me to watch the first two Harry Potter films.
It's kind of rough.
They do not hold up.
Yeah.
The books do. Yeah, you can't take anything away from the books, but the first two movies are just
Yeah. The books, you can really put your own special effects in them.
Yeah, right.
Like, it does not age well, the special effects in those
terribly.
movies. Yeah. But yeah, so we can go into spoilers here in a moment, but any closing thoughts, overall thoughts or anything?
No, just pretty much I'm glad that it reeled me into being excited for the rest of them. Mm-hmm. So I no longer look at this as like a Harry Potter chore. Like, I'm excited to be brought back into the universe, and I think they've done a good job of that.
Nice. I'll share that sentiment slightly less enthusiastically, but I think that it was a solid beginning to what I hope will become a standout companion franchise to what is one of the most beloved fictional universes of our time. So before we go into our spoiler talk, I kind of want to talk about, I threw in a note or a question into the Facebook group for people to ask to ask people what they thought of Fantastic Beasts. I'm going to dig up those comments because I've noticed that when we review movies and we have Facebook group comments to bring up, I always do it after the spoiler talk.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so people that haven't seen it may not, check out, hear those comments. Of course, you can find the Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. There's a link to the Facebook group pinned to the top of that page. And we got two comments. Matt and Draco said, "You guys are watching all the good movies. I should go to a theater sometime." So he hasn't seen it. But my friend Alex, who also works with me, she said, and I will say, like, Fekkes, when I said that you're one of the biggest Harry Potter fans, like, she's the biggest Harry Potter fan.
That's fair.
Yeah, she has a Harry Potter party every year here. It's pretty remarkable.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to go this year.
Has she been to platform 9 3/4? That's all I'm saying. I've been.
That's a good point. I don't think she has.
Well,
Anyway, she said, absolutely loved it. It had the feeling of being set in the world of Harry Potter while still feeling like a completely new and fresh story. And then Matt and Draco commented on that and said, oh dear, I didn't realize this was in the Harry Potter universe until reading about it. I should probably read or watch one of the stories one of these days. How am I even human? So you might say Matt and Draco is a muggle.
Or a nomad.
Which brings us into the spoiler talk for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Don't panic, but there's absolutely nothing to worry about.
Let's start right into nomad.
Yes.
How lazy of a term is nomad? I don't know why, but it irritates. The whole term of nomad just irritates me.
It didn't irritate me that much, to be honest. It really didn't.
Here's why it irritates me. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So apparently, they don't say muggle in the United States. Mm-hmm. The American version for a muggle is called a nomad.
Right.
Correct. All right. So, however, the term squib is apparently an American and a British term because he calls Credence a squib. So why can't we just say muggles? Nomad sounds so like a caveman, like a magician caveman. He nomads.
Maybe that's the origin of it.
I hate the term nomad.
I agree that it is lazy. I'm not as passionate about that as you are, but it is lazy. And maybe that's I don't know if this is
maybe it's a critique on the American society.
That's what I was gonna say because we're lazy as hell.
We are,
but
they don't have to point it out.
Not really in the same family or anything, but I do. That does remind me of that. There was a great line that I got a good chuckle out of when Newt first goes there and he is standing at the bottom of the steps where I believe it's the New Salemer lady is preaching her stuff, and she asks him. She's like, "Oh, friend, where are you from?" And he's like, "Whatever." And then she says, we're looking for seekers or something like that." And she's like, "Are you a seeker?" And he's like, "I'm more of a chaser."
I love that.
I was like, "That's great.
Yeah,
that's
great.
Perfect." Oh yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the plot overall. We did not touch on it much at all in our non-spoiler review. So there's a whole thing. I'm struggling to really make sense of it to me. Like,
of the plot?
Sort of, to an extent, because the whole plot, from what I can tell, and it seems a little, not convoluted, but kind of just not anything of interest. Well, okay, let me start over. Newt comes to New York, and there's a great, like, takedown of this plot on the /filmcast, actually, where... So Newt comes to New York because he wants to set that one beast free in Arizona. They can disapparate. Is that the word? Apparate from place to place. He comes to New York to go all the way to Arizona.
They can't apparate wherever they want. There is a limit to how far they can apparate.
Okay.
And they touch on that in the books.
Okay. That's fair. But there's a considerable amount of time where Newt is in New York. We don't really know what he's doing there. We just see all of the kind of fun.
Well, first of all,
things.
you have to take a historical standpoint of this. He can't fly into the United States, and the port of entrance into the United States over the Atlantic was New York City. That's literally the only place for him to go.
That's true, but he's a wizard. He can have a broom. I don't know.
They're still trying. The wizarding world's still trying to be underground. So for him to fly, first of all, flying on a broom across the Atlantic probably would take a month or two. Mm-hmm. Second of all, when he lands in New York, he can just be like, "Well, I'm gonna hop on my broom now." Screw the international secrecy plans or pact or whatever you want. Treaty. I think treaty. I'm just gonna fly where the hell I want. So there is a reason why he can't just operate from here to here, and
that's fair. And that wasn't a huge sticking point for me. They just brought it up on another podcast, and I was kind of curious.
Maybe they should study their Harry Potter. Okay.
But the issue that I have is like it's not until we're in the suitcase. This is after we meet several characters and we're introduced to this world and everything that we even know why he's there, because he's there to release that one beast. That, I mean, like the reason behind it, like it was kind of a blink and I missed it kind of thing. Like I didn't even catch the full. Like its home is in Arizona, so he's releasing it in Arizona. Is that what it? Yeah,
taking
it's
it
just
back
like
home.
That's his whole impetus for coming to New York.
He's an animal conservationist.
Sure.
So he's found this animal that's been trafficked. His whole life is dedicated to the preservation of these magical beasts. And
that's a good message. That's a great like underlying message throughout the movie. It's like understanding these creatures in a way that we don't like, because they're wanting to kill the creatures and things like that. I like that message and everything. My issue is that it's so long before we're introduced to this concept, or we're introduced to his motivations for even coming to New York. It's just like there's only so much of him bumping into Dan Fogler and him interacting with characters and him being all goofy and weird and absorbing this New York setting before I'm starting to think like, okay, well, let's get to the reason why he's here. Let's get to the plot of the movie.
He tells him that he's there because he's trying to find a specific magical beast being bred, which was his cover story.
It's just, it didn't work for me.
I didn't have a problem with his reasonings to be. First of all, there was no other place for him to port in the United States.
And I'll give you that. That's fair. That is totally fair. I respect that. But it just, I don't know. It was not to my liking the way that it was introduced.
Well, they're sorry that 1920s world travel is not to your standards.
I will say this, that first of all, the idea of there being dragons in World War I, like that little piece of dialogue where he's talking to Tina, and I think he's talking to Tina. I don't remember what exactly it was, but he said they said something about how there were dragons in World War I. That made me really curious about like what are the wizards like in wartime, like when humans. Yeah, which
that would be fun. I mean, there's so many aspects of the wizarding world be fun to explore. I mean, you could make a ridiculous amount of films, books, combat, whatever. I mean, it'd be endless.
Yeah. And I like the idea that the story is going to be ending in 1945, so maybe we'll get some like World War II stuff. I don't know if they'll go that route.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, they're going to Paris for the next film. I don't know what the time frame is, but
good point.
Yeah. One of my gripes, and I was nudging Cassidy in the middle of the film too, was there's so many problems within, not like the major issues of the movie, but so many problems in various scenes that could be easily have been solved by the one spell of Accio. It's like, Accio this. Okay, now it's in my hand. Like, hey, Accio Niffler. Foom. Okay, got the Niffler. Accio cockroach. Floom, got my cockroach. Now I don't have to do this crazy basketball scene with this teacup.
That scene, I
was irritated by
that whole scene. I had a problem with.
The whole time I'm sitting there just going, Accio cockroach. You're a freaking wizard. I'm a no mage. I know what you're supposed to be doing right now.
My problem with that scene wasn't so much that they could have done the spell and they could have been easily done. My problem was, like, there's a difference between them being in a situation and them solving the situation with magic and with kooky, quirky things that are magic. There's a difference between that and the difference is that I want to understand why they need that. Like, when they're in the middle of it, like, he's just throwing out, like, oh, we need a cockroach and a teapot. Oh, hey, they're right there and there. It's like...
there really could have been cockroach in a small container.
Yeah. But it's just like, I don't know. It just took some of the suspense out of me, because it's just like, instead of me being excited or not scared but tensed up for that scene, I was like, okay, well, why does he need a cockroach? Why does he need a teapot? And like, while all this stuff is going on, it's like, I don't need to be thinking of why, because this is a magic world. Like, just say I need a teapot and I need a cockroach before the hits the fan, and then, like, I know that that's what they'll be working toward. I'll know that, like, instead of thinking like, oh wait, why? Those are random words.
To be fair, he didn't realize he was going to need a small confined space until he realized how large that the beast had gotten, and they explained that the beast is able to grow or shrink based upon its current housing, I guess. So he didn't realize that specific beast had grown to that size yet. So in order to get said beast back to a manageable size, he now needs these items. And
that's fair, but I kind of wish that I would have been more on board with that scene and more in the moment with that scene if he had said, okay, like, before going there, it's saying, like, okay, well, to get this creature, we need to have it will expand and explain all of these things, and say, like, we need to bait it to get into a small container.
I can get behind your gripe on that.
Yeah. And it's just like, I would have rather been like, how are they going to find these items? How are they going to get out of this? Instead of, why are they looking for these things to get out of this? Like, that's was my issue. But
my whole issue was like, Accio teacup, Accio bug. This is so simply solved.
Right.
So it's like, we don't need to play basketball with the cockroach in the teacup.
Right.
But
Going back to the bit about travel, it made me kind of curious what, like, if in this universe, in this world, like, I wonder what type of historical events, like how wizards would have shaped them. Like, I wonder what, the Titanic was like.
There probably wasn't any wizards on the Titanic.
Well,
there might have been a wizard.
Let's not discriminate.
They probably survived.
Yeah.
Okay. They probably really like, screw this. Accio boat.
Right. Or
some kind of floating. So I'm sure they would have been just fine on the Titanic. Sitting there going, well, sorry, guys.
Yeah. Maybe there was some, like, dark wizards or, like, dark magic, whatever, and then they were just like Accio iceberg.
Screw them.
Right. So the greater plot, we didn't really even touch on Ezra Miller at all in
we didn't.
Spoiler
Credence.
Review. Credence. I thought that he did fine. I thought that was
I thought it was a good portrayal of a person in that situation. I thought it was kind of telegraphed that he was going to be the obscurial and not the little girl. It had been too obvious for the little girl to be the obscure. First of all, that Ezra Miller's in the movie, and he's going to end up playing a bigger role. So it wasn't a shock to me when he ended up being the obscurial.
It was funny because it was kind of a surprise to me.
Really?
Yeah. I did not. I liked the groundwork that was laid for it because
I did too.
Yeah, like
I don't say that as a critique of that plot point.
You just saw it coming.
Yeah.
You were there, and like when it was revealed. And again, this might be because I just wasn't quite as invested in the movie up to this point, but like I started rethinking of earlier scenes, like the senator scene getting killed. Like that's directly because he
had called
made
him
the comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was an asshole.
Totally. And then his mother, or adopted mother?
Yeah, it would have been like
foster mother.
Foster, yeah, it was like an orphanage.
Yeah, and it's, it was they laid the groundwork well. That was set up well for me. In the ending, I thought having this scene where Newt is that's one moment where I really liked the character of Newt and Eddie Redmayne, is he's trying to bring Credence back.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that a lot. But and then the kind of shock of having, the wizard police murder the kid was kind of an interesting twist, I guess, on it. Or not twist, but
Well, no, I agree, because you almost, I don't know, you almost expect this to have almost a pleasant outcome, and they're like, no, done with this.
Right.
I don't have. Yeah, I like that concept, and I don't want to say it was like, yeah, I love that they killed Credence. To hell with that abused kid. No, I liked how they didn't go for the easy ending on that.
Right. It's a dark ending.
It is.
It is, and I like the way that was handled. I think that had they have Newt, convince him to bring him back, and they have like his own little healing thing to bring him back, I think that ending would have worked, but this was more
intriguing ending.
Yeah, more intriguing and more bold ending, really. And I don't know if this is the connection that they were wanting to make, but it kind of feels like we're at a time now where there's a lot of tension about, people getting shot by authority. I don't know if
that might be a stretch, because first of all, this movie has been in production for a few years. And
that's true.
That's been kind of a hotbed topic and year and a half ish. So maybe it was a critique on that. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's a coincidence. But I'd find it almost hard to believe that was in the writer's mind. Okay. It might have been. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. But there's definitely parallels there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe that's more just something. If you're looking for a connection to our culture or whatever, then maybe that's just projecting onto it a little bit.
Americans like to shoot everything,
right? So yeah, and then we get at the end the reveal,
the big reveal.
Yeah, which
you know, I knew that they'd cast Johnny Depp as Grindelwald.
I knew that too.
I knew that they had filmed scenes. I thought that those scenes were being filmed for the next one. Okay. So it was a genuine surprise for me when Grays ended up being Grindelwald. And pleasant. I thought it was fun. I thought
really?
It was fun. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I thought it was okay. I thought it was just okay. I knew that Depp was cast. I didn't know until the day that I saw it that he was in the movie for at least a moment. So I kind of wish I didn't know that. But also, I really wish I didn't know. Like, I wish that I would have gone in and had not known anything about Johnny Depp being cast, not knowing anything about him being cast as that character, and then have that surprise be... Yeah. That would have been
that
more
probably
effective.
Would have worked. Yeah. It was effective for me because I like I said, I thought I had read, maybe I misread the article that I read, but I thought that he had filmed scenes for the next one already.
That's what I was thinking too until I heard that it was in the movie.
Yeah, and so I didn't know that he was in this. So yes, it was a cool surprise for me. I enjoyed it.
I think it would have been better if I just did, like I said, if I just didn't know that he was cast at all, because I think that would have been
absolutely.
Cool. Yeah.
If I had no knowledge that Johnny Depp was in any part of this, that would have been an amazing reveal.
Absolutely.
But you know, in the world of internet, it's almost impossible to not have something spoiled, especially in major films like franchises like Star Wars, Harry Potter.
I agree. But yeah, and I agree. That is just part of the world we're in today. So I didn't have a problem with it per se, but it wasn't like a big money shot at the end of the movie for me. I was just like, oh, cool.
It's a shame that it wasn't. It's a shame that they weren't able to keep that more tightly hid. Yeah,
and I think that it would have been more impactful to me if because, I mean, Grindelwald is this character that is introduced in the movie as, you know, this complete, like, this super evil
This
character.
era is Voldemort, if you will.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I would have liked for it to be hidden, him being hidden for at least the first movie, if not the first couple of movies, and kind of have that slow build to where you don't get him until the story is kind of in the
If this is the focal point of this portion, I would rather see him. Maybe not the first movie, but second movie definitely.
Sure. And in that case, yeah, that would maybe work better for this franchise because there isn't it doesn't seem like there's going to be a core group like the way that Harry Potter is. So you can't follow, like you don't have this central character and group of characters that you're following through the story first and foremost. So like in Harry Potter, you know, Harry, Hermione, and Ron, they're experiencing the story, but everything is kind of in the background. Like all the bigger things are happening in the background. That's one of the things that is the magic of Harry Potter is that is an incredibly intricate and well done plot or story device throughout that whole franchise. Here, I understand that they're doing something different, so I can make my peace with that. But having the reveal of Johnny Depp and showing this big bad character for the franchise as just being just like really brief introduction to him in his true form, I feel like that would have been. I feel like it would have been a lot better if it was like this huge reveal that showed just how dangerous he truly could be. Because where we get him, he's taken away, and it's just kind of like, okay.
It's like, well, he got caught.
Yeah. It's like a Scooby-Doo mystery. It's like, okay, Graves this. Oh, it was Grindelwald the whole time. So yeah, that's, I don't know. I feel like that
I get the
could have been
critique.
better. Yeah.
I still enjoyed it.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot more about this movie we haven't really touched on.
I will say this. One of the things I loved about it was the introduction of this new mythos in the Harry Potter universe of the Obscurial.
Yeah.
That is an amazing concept to me, and I adored it.
I thought it was cool.
The whole suppression of the magic manifesting in something so destructive and dark, it's amazing to me. That's such an awesome concept, and it fits so well into the universe, and it fits so well in the whole New Salemers as well as.
And the way you describe it, yeah, that's freaking amazing. That's a great concept, but I don't know, something about it just, I think the way that the information was delivered in the movie didn't feel like as strong as the way that you just put it.
I think there was a problem with its introduction. First of all, you're first introduced into the Obscurial where they had Dan Fogler's character comes across the Obscurial that was taken from the Egyptian girl.
Yeah.
And he's just like, don't touch that, it's an Obscurial. Well, this is the first time anyone has ever heard that term.
Exactly.
No one knows an Obscurial is yet. The next time it's referred to it is when Newt Scamander is being brought in front of the American Ministry of Magic and shown the devastation of the senator and his father, and he's like, oh, that was done by an Obscurial, and they're like, that there hasn't been one documented since this, and you're still like, what's an Obscurial?
Right.
What are we talking about? It isn't until a bit later that you're told what the Obscurial is. So yeah, I agree. They did not do a great job of introducing this, to me, amazing new concept of the magic world.
The movie could have begun with him taking the Obscurial from the little girl to introduce it.
I think that would have been a great introduction to both the character and the focal point of the bad guy's intentions.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would have gladly, I think the movie would have benefited from 5 to 10 more minutes, just setting things up a little clearer or cleaner.
And you could have cut a couple things out too.
Yeah,
to make room for that. The zoo scene wasn't my favorite scene.
Me neither. The mating dance.
Yeah, that felt awkward for everybody.
It was.
Don't get me wrong. I love the sequence inside the suitcase.
That was good.
But yes, the mating dance.
The mating dance was not really, Snapchat worthy.
It was not Snapchat. You are correct.
Right.
You are correct. I loved the what was the name of the beast? The bow truffle? His little stick guy.
Yeah, that was cool.
I loved him.
Yeah,
I thought
me
he was
too.
great.
And I like the relationship between them. That could have been,
Well, I remember reading in the books, Hagrid does a class on, I think they're bow truffles. I can't recall the exact name. And I just, in the point in the book, it's supposed to be boring for the students as well, because Hagrid's under the watchful eye of, an administrator at that point.
Right.
So even the books, I'm like, oh, that's a dumb creature. And here it is, ends up being such a charming little little character in this movie. So I enjoyed that.
It makes it makes me excited for, in a weird way, kind of on the same thing. It makes me excited for Baby Groot and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I can see that.
That's the connection my brain made.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Did you think they got a little destructive porn at the end?
Okay. Well, I am on record with having problems with destruction porn.
Right.
And I think you're actually on record on this podcast
on the opposite end of it.
With on the opposite side, and with calling me out when I don't have a problem versus when I do. It didn't register with me this time.
Man, I just thought they went overboard. It's like you tore down everything. You tore down the uncompleted Empire State Building, and it's just like, okay, we get it. It's destructive.
I liked the scale of it. The whole time I was thinking, how the hell are they going to fix this? Like, how are they going to fix this in a way that the world doesn't know about the Wizarding World by the time Harry Potter comes around?
Cue the Deus Ex Machina.
Exactly.
I had a huge problem with that.
Yeah, that was
It's like, remember this venom that I alluded to earlier in the story? Well, it turns out if I mix it with this giant bird, yeah. I did not love the resolution. It was. I mean, no, I couldn't get behind it.
Yeah,
that part kind of took me back a little bit, and I was just thinking, like, man, this is far too convenient.
Yeah, convenience. That's what it boiled down to for me. It was too convenient, and I mean, it's just. I mean, granted, it is 1926, but I mean, I feel like enough time elapsed during that event that. That's not going to guarantee. Yeah. Granted, they're not firing off tweets or Snapchatting the stuff, but I mean, they can fire off a telegram.
I was like, holy crap, you can't believe ... SOS. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's telegram?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, then again, if Slight Word would have gotten out, you would have had a whole city saying, what are you talking about? That didn't happen, obviously. But still, I think the whole concept of the mixture of this alluded to Venom earlier in the film with this, oh, you mean this animal also has the ability to affect weather patterns?
Yeah.
It was far too convenient.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yes, that took me back a bit.
And what did you think of the romantic subplots?
I was more interested in Dan Fogler and the sister than I was in Newt and Tina.
I agree completely. I was not.
It's like I was genuinely heartbroken when Dan Fogler had to forget about the entire Wizarding community.
I did too.
I felt bad for him.
I really did too, and I was hoping that there would be some reveal at the end that he didn't have to, but. They didn't give that to us. No, I was really wishing that he would,
like she cast a spell to block him from the. Yeah, I'm glad she came back, and they're probably going to, it's gonna be a floundering relationship. But man, he loved that universe.
Yeah,
and they just ripped it away from Dan.
He was us in that movie,
right? Exactly. Yes,
exactly.
100%.
Oh yeah, and he was great. And I hope that if this franchise had a connected character going through it, I would hope that it would be him throughout it, but I don't know how they would do that. I hope that he's in the next one. I'll say that.
Not only that, and this is just because of my opinion of Dan Fogler, I hope being in such a high profile franchise gives him the opportunity to be in other films.
Me too. Because
I like him. I think he's a fun actor, and I would like to really see him succeed.
Yeah. Dan Fogler for episode 9. Yeah. But yeah, I I really hope to see more of him because he was probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah, he was
his
fun.
character. And
was John Voight random? Like, here's John Voight for a couple of scenes.
he was.
It's like, why do we need John Voight for this? Don't get me wrong, I like John Voight.
Me too.
But I feel like that's just kind of a waste of John Voight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then they had this at the end. He's just like, the thing killed my son. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he did, but I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, all right,
Your son was a dick.
right. It's like, okay, well, we haven't been following you for an entire movie, so cool. We saw it, yeah, but I don't feel it.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the magical speakeasy scene?
I did.
I loved it.
enjoyed that
I thought
a lot.
it was great.
Yeah.
Especially the giggle shots. that was fun.
That was great. Yeah. That and just the idea of the speakeasy.
Oh, right.
I mean,
this magical speakeasy. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah. I love that as just a concept because I love that era and that kind of like Boardwalk Empire, for all of its faults at the end, was one of my favorite shows when it was airing.
Yeah.
Because I just love that idea, and I like that they incorporated part of our history in that.
Right. I love the whole concept of the American Wizarding World, and I wish it would be explored a little deeper. But I understand they're going to go to other wizarding countries. So, but it was fun getting a taste of the magical world.
Yeah.
In the United States.
Yep, and I wish that just makes me also wish that it was a book. I would love to have her
I agree.
Expand on it.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's so much and she's already come out with history of magic in the United States about where it started and the names of the different houses within the American wizarding school, which the name escapes me. It's an American Indian term, but
right. Madge school.
Yeah. No Madge. Come on.
Yeah. But the romantic subplot tease of Tina and Newt, I felt was kind of
yeah.
Not so far as to say unearned, but I just felt like it was just
well, they get married.
Perfunctory.
So,
Wait, do they?
Yeah.
Seriously?
In the
or is this a thing that I should have read in the books before? I should have done my homework.
This is not in the books. This is in the written Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, written by J.K. Rowling.
Okay.
AKA written by Newt Scamander, and there's a foreword in the book saying, "To my lovely wife," and it's so.
Okay.
If you are a deep Harry Potter fan, you know that they're going to get married.
Okay. I liked the. I was intrigued by the element of the of his backstory with Lestrange. What is the picture in the case?
With
is that
his girlfriend or his like the girl he pines over?
Yeah, is that someone from? Isn't that really?
Well? If it is, I'm unaware of it.
I thought that it was okay. Who's Helena Bonham Carter? And
she's Bellatrix Lestrange.
Lestrange. So they're related.
Was she a Lestrange? I
think so. Yeah, because whatever word you called the one that could read minds.
Oculamens.
The Oculamens girl. She said it and I caught that name and I was like, oh, okay.
I missed that then.
Okay. And then, cause she even says like that family and then she stops saying it or anything. So
very dark family.
Yeah. That sounds a little, that sounds like something completely different.
Especially in the Americas in 1920.
Right. Oh, yeesh. But that was the thing.
I missed that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Guess I'm a bigger Harry Potter fan.
Such bigger.
Right.
It's bigly Harry Potter fan. It's going to be huge.
Oh, yeah. You don't have any Harry Potter tattoos?
No. I might get one somewhere down the line. The wife is currently planning she's getting a Harry Potter sleeve.
Oh, so, nice. Yeah. Very nice. Cool. Anything else to really unpack in this movie? There was the execution scene that I thought was pretty dark.
Yeah.
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 Kind of crazy.
That was, again, like, and even that part I thought was kind of a critique on America. so quick to execute.
Yeah, and
Which
that was
I can get behind that. I can get behind that critique. I have issues with the death penalty myself.
sure.
Not to veer off into that subject.
I thought you were saying I can get behind us executing.
Let's kill everyone.
I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, Officer Fekkes.
Stop. No.
Oh no.
Other direction. No, but yeah, I thought that was kind of a. Not only was it a critique, I appreciated the critique.
Sure.
So, and yeah, that was a very dark scene.
Oh yeah, and sudden, just really sudden. Like there was no. Maybe that's a fault on the movie. Also, it was really sudden in that I wish that there was more build up to it, because like they're just like, okay, execute them, and I'm like,
I was like, whoa, don't we get a trial here?
Like, hold on, you guys were just referencing Dumbledore. I'm still putting that together. And then now you're going to kill them. Like, come on, guys. Like, maybe get some suspense going.
Right.
Yeah. Which I did like the Dumbledore reference. Just throwing it out there. Did you catch that one too?
Well, about how he was the backer behind Newt Scamander.
Yeah.
But then again, I knew that going forward. I knew that Newt Scamander was kicked out of Hogwarts, and I knew that Dumbledore was an advocate of Newt Scamander. So
gotcha. Yeah. I just. It's been a while for me since I've
I
exposed.
I have an encyclopedic knowledge of the Harry Potter universe, so I enjoy it. Turns out,
good for you.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that about covers everything that I have for this movie. Any parting thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we pretty much covered a good portion of it.
Will you be purchasing it on Blu-ray?
Yeah, for a couple reasons. First of all, if I own the first two Harry Potter films, which I almost at this point don't even like, I might as well own this one, which I genuinely enjoyed. And second of all, there's no way my wife would let me get away with not owning this film. So of course it's going to be bought.
Sure. All right, so I think that'll do it for our review of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yep.
Which you can find them.
Think we found them.
I think so. You guys can go ahead and find them at your local theater. Yeah. So anyway, let us know what you think. Obviously, contact us via Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
I don't even know. I haven't
at R.A. Fekkes.
All right. Well, apparently it's R.A. Fekkes.
Right. Or join the Facebook group at facebook.com.
Snapchat me.
Yes.
Nerdster330.
Oh, yeah. It's funny because
Matt loves Snapchat.
The thing about that is Nerdster. That sounds like a handle that you would make as like a teenager, but Snapchat was not.
I'm a nerd. And 330
true.
was my unit number on late shift. So,
well, there you go. So anyway, you can always bug Fekkes in the Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. And we're going to go ahead and go on to our Potpourri section, which is the section of the podcast where we kind of wind down the episode by talking about things that we've watched, things we're looking forward to, anything we want, as long as it smells good. That's what we refer to it as. And I have a couple things. One thing that I forgot to bring up at the top of the episode that I'll just kind of, that'll be the second thing I bring up. So I'll get us kicked off, and then Fekkes, you can be in between my things. So, obviously, longtime listeners will know that my regular co-host Tiny always has a thing for documentaries. So these episodes where Fekkes is in his place, it's a good reprieve from documentaries, except for this episode. So I watched Earbuds, the podcasting documentary. It is a documentary that I bought from comedyfilmnerds.com. Which is a podcast hosted by Graham Elwood, who also directed the documentary. And Earbuds is a documentary about podcasting in general. The IMDb synopsis is a documentary exploring the deep personal connection between podcasters and fans that doesn't exist in any other medium. And I was very eager about this, and I was very happy to pay. I actually paid, I think it was $11 for the HD HD version of it, digital version of it, that has about an hour, or I think a little more than an hour worth of bonus features along with it. And the great thing about that, and this is something that I am so happy that they did this, the digital copy is not like a DRM specific thing or anything. It's an MP4 file. They have they give you a download link that's active for 48 hours to download it. Once you download it, after 48 hours, that link is no longer active, and then you can have that forever on any device. I watched it on my PS3 that I put on my portable hard drive to play it on there. It's really easy, and it looks great because it's HD, and it's a really well put together documentary. It really examines, as the synopsis describes, it examines not necessarily the history of podcasts, but just like the feel of podcasts, like the connection that podcasts have with their audiences. And it's something that obviously resonated with me in a big way, because a big part of my life is podcasting. And I actually noticed, like, oh, I have those same equipment, that's the mixer that we have, and that's the recorder that we use. And so that was cool on that front. But one of the things that, it's not a critique of it, just as a general comment about podcasting and everything, is that the mainstream, like, I support anything that will bring the podcasting medium to a wider audience, like, totally. I didn't like Tusk, like, at all. And I don't even like Kevin Smith's podcasts at all, really. And I didn't like Tusk's representation of podcasts because it was just morning shock jock things.
It was a douche.
Yeah.
It was a douche in that,
yeah. But I respect that was the first movie in the history of movies or podcasting that was based on a podcast. Like, that was created from a podcast. The idea behind it was, the inception of the idea came from a podcast episode, and I respect the hell out of that. Didn't like the movie, but I like that it's bringing podcasts to a wider audience. Earbuds depicts the wildly popular and widespread genre of podcasts that's comedy podcasts. The podcasts that have massive followings because they are fronted by comedians and people with followings built in to an extent, and social media and everything. So in that respect, it's something that didn't really connect with me on that level, because we're a movie and TV podcast. It is quite possibly the most competitive, one of the most competitive podcast genres, because everyone, like, we're not professional critics, so that puts us at a slight disadvantage. So we're not world renowned yet. We have listeners from around the world, but we're not, we don't have that type of audience. So, and yet. It's coming.
It's on the cusp.
Yeah, but this is more of a, comedy interview podcast genre that's depicted in Earbuds. Then that's not a fault, because it's not purporting to depict every facet of podcasting. It's just a podcast genre that didn't resonate with me the way that a movie and TV podcast documentary would. And that's not a fault on it. Everything is put together really well. The emotion of the subjects, because they show both podcast creators and fans, and they show, like, Graham Elwood does comedy film nerds. That's what kind of the impetus of, which is funny because it's a movie podcast, but anyway, invalidates my entire point. Basically what I'm getting at is go rate us on iTunes and give us a positive review, 5 stars review. Thank you. But anyway, it shows, like, them, like, he and his co-host, they met for the first time. They're, like, number one fan from around the world in Japan. And, like, we have listeners, like, we have one listener in the UK that is just, like, one of our longtime listeners, and it's cool to see that kind of connection depicted in a documentary, because I feel like I have a connection with all of our listeners that are, like, not hiding and everything. But anyway, so it's a really interesting documentary. They show a lot of the connection between the podcasters and the fans, and it also dives into a lot of the way that a lot of podcasts can resonate for people with in hard times. Like there's a lot of things about people that are going through medical things and mental illness and gravitating toward podcasts, whether it's listening to it or creating them. And then that's something that really spoke to me and resonated with me, because I think that that's a really good depiction of the power of the medium. And also Aisha Tyler is in this documentary. She has a podcast called Girl on Guy.
She's the voice of Lana?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And I swear to God, she has a scene where she is talking about creating her podcast and everything that goes into it, and those words could have been coming out of my mouth, and it would have been, every word of it would have been true. Because it's just my experience. Like, it's amazing that like she and I are having the exact same experience. So I need to marry her. But anyway.
Yeah, she's attractive.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, it is a really good documentary. Earbuds, the podcasting documentary. You can buy it on comedyfilmnerds.com. I haven't gotten a chance to check out the special features yet, but if you're a fan of podcasts, go buy it, because this is a documentary. I believe it was Kickstarted. I remember reading about it a while ago. Like I said, my copy was $11, but they have standard definition that's cheaper if you don't want to spend that much. But it's worth it, and if you love this medium as much as I do, it's a good way to support it. Or you can just donate to the Obsessive Viewer, or become our patrons on Patreon.
Patreon.com.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mentioned that Tiny always does documentaries, and like one time he did he brought up a documentary for Potpourri about a documentary series about water. I gave him a lot of crap about that. So I've met the documentary quota for this episode. So Fekkes, what do you have for Potpourri?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Matt. It's going to be a documentary.
God damn it!
Sorry. Hey, look, it's what I got to watch.
Sure. Well, is it like at least something like really interesting? Like you're a police officer. Is it something like really action packed and stuff?
I thought it was fascinating.
Doesn't bode well.
I know. All right. Look, what I watched, it's on Netflix. It's called a Galapagos Affair. Satan comes to Eden.
Oh,
and Eden or Paradise, either one. And it's a documentary about a small island in the Galapagos that three different sets of people decide to go inhabit. First of all, starting this off, I didn't even know that people lived on the Galapagos that weren't like zoologists and biology researchers. So this all takes place pre-World War II. And all three of these people who don't know each other, or groups of people, are from Germany, and they travel to this small island of the Galapagos Island to live there for, I don't know, a simpler lifestyle, I suppose.
Okay.
The first family gets there, and this guy, he's a physician that quits his job as a physician and divorces his wife and takes this other girl who divorces her husband to go live on this island. And they think that this is going to be their island, and there's no one else that's going to inhabit it. So this other German family just apparently shows up to start living on the island.
Interesting.
So they're cohabitating on this island together, and this German guy is completely turned off with anyone else being on this island. So this entire perspective of this whole documentary is brought to you through the diaries of the people that lived on the island.
Interesting.
So eventually a third set of people show up, and it's this girl that calls herself the Baroness and her two manservants. And she's like this ostentatious, like Paris Hilton of the 1920s character. Wow. So all three of these sets of people are living on this island, and they all kind of detest each other, but have to put up with each other. Huh. So eventually it gets to the point where they're on the island for 3 years total. And there are some firsthand accounts of people that lived on some of the other Galapagos Islands that came into contact with these three groups. And so you get some firsthand knowledge of these actual people. But the Baroness talks about how she's going to make this island a hotel resort. And she starts feuds with the other people on the island about possessions and property. And one of the male servants ends up killing her. This is all a document. Like I said, this is all true. Wow. So they play it off as it's like, hey, look, Baroness is gone. A yacht showed up yesterday and she went off to Tahiti. And they're like, there's an island. We all see everything on this island. There was no yacht that came. Wow. So it's a remarkably odd story.
That's really, the way that you described it, and how much of that would be spoiled? Should I cut around that?
No, just okay. First of all, I don't see everyone be like, I gotta go watch this documentary, but it was fascinatingly strange.
Well, the way that you described it, like the way my brain works, is that all I kept thinking was, like, like that could be you could be saying those words and it could be a pitch to HBO to make an original series.
Right.
Yeah. Cuz that sounds really compelling. And I'm almost compelling enough to where I would almost apologize for being a smartass earlier. But that does sound really interesting.
It's the strangest thing I'd ever seen, like, of a true story. I had no knowledge of this whatsoever. I just happened upon the documentary on Netflix, and I was bored, so I was like, "Oh, I'll watch this." And nice. I was captivated of how ridiculous this entire scenario was.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And it was it's
a Galapagos Affair. Satan comes to Eden, or
that's correct.
Yeah, give it a watch. It's hour. Nice. I want to say it's hour 45 minutes, but it's for a documentary that's mostly talking heads and some kind of like people reading the actual diary portions of it. It's oddly captivating. Nice.
I will have to check that out. Awesome, and that's currently on Netflix, so check it out, guys. And okay, I'll go ahead and round us out. We're kind of running a little long, but two things. One, the trailer. This will be brief. The trailer for Passengers. Every time I see it, I want to see it so much more.
That's what me and Cassie are going to go see on Christmas Day.
Nice. So. Yeah, I can't freaking wait.
It is awfully convenient that the two passengers that get awoken are two of the most attractive people on Earth. So.
Yeah.
I just listened
so hot.
I just listened to a podcast with Anna Faris, and I'm quite okay with her being with Chris Pratt. She seems like a hilarious, quirky girl. So
she has a brief scene in the movie Keanu.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great. Oh yeah. So anyway, I'm really excited for Passengers. I'm very much looking forward to it. And the other thing I'm going to bring up is another trailer that I don't know how this is going to sound. I don't know how to phrase it really. The trailer for Hidden Figures.
I don't think I've seen it.
It has oh man, hang on. It's kind of going to lead me to a little bit of a gripe, I guess. It's got Taraji P. Henson, Octavia Spencer. The plot description is a team of African American women provide NASA with important mathematical data needed to launch the program's first successful space missions.
I know what you're talking about.
So I love historical movies like that. I love the space program.
It's the help in space.
Well, yeah. The problem that I have, and let me preface this by asking you, how did you feel about Remember the Titans?
I enjoyed Remember the Titans. It's fun. It's a fun movie.
Yeah. What I kind of don't like the kind of Disneyfication of one of the most racially tumultuous
of the civil rights era.
The civil rights era. Because that's such an ugly part of our history of this culture.
It is.
That I feel like having it presented in a way in movies, and this is one of my gripes with Remember the Titans, because it's kind of the same way in that movie is like
how they go out of their way to make sure no one says anything.
And it's very much like a there was one line, and like there's a line in the trailer for Hidden Figures where it's like the three women are stopped by the police, or they have a flat tire or something like that, or they have car trouble, and the police officer stops, and then he's like, "Where are you headed?" And then they're like, "Oh, we work for NASA or something." And then he's just like, "Oh, I didn't know that they hired then there's a pause, and then I think Octavia Spencer says, "Yeah, women." And it's just like, it's like I said, that it's such a terrible part of our history that I don't like it being represented in this kind of like, oh, look how funny, like, you know, subverting expectations for that. It's an ugly part of our history, and I just don't like that it's being depicted in a way that's so sugar coated.
I get what you're saying. However, I think because these three ladies are true figures that they helped.
Right.
So that's a story that the mainstream public should know about, of these African American women that helped propel us to the moon. Like, and that's an important story to tell. Now, when you tell that story, do we have to make it where, you know, we show the horrible ugliness of racial tensions? That, not that I would ever sugarcoat that terrible portion of, but, you know, this is a story that would hopefully inspire young girls that probably don't need to be sitting through a movie watching these three ladies get called the N-word back and forth.
And that's a very good point. Like, and I totally, like, that is swaying my opinion right now. Like, that, you are 100% right. And yes, that if it can inspire young women and young minority women also, like, that's phenomenal. Like, that is really great. And yeah, and I agree. And I'll concede my opinion slightly there, but I just don't like the idea of the civil rights era and movement in our history being Disneyfied.
Well, there's plenty of movies that do depict it in the violent, horrific light that it is. However, there should still be a series of media approachable to the younger audience that does show the bigotry as it was, appropriately for their age. So Remember the Titans does show that, you know. I would feel comfortable taking, like, God forbid if I ever have heathen children, like, I'd feel comfortable taking, like, an 8-year-old to Remember the Titans. In one aspect, it's not overly vulgar or hateful, but it still shows the division of the nation and the problems of that era.
And that's true. It is a demographic thing. It is tailoring a story, a true story, to a specific audience to make it accessible to a wider audience. And that's fair. And I will concede my opinion to that, because there are examples of other movies that have a more honest portrayal of what it was like.
Now, would I take that same child to go see Malcolm X? No, probably not.
Right. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. So I don't know. That was just one of the things that came up when I was seeing the trailer for it. And I mean, yeah. And now that I've said it out loud and everything, I agree with you. Yeah, it's not as big of an issue as I had with it, and there are reasons. Like, obviously, it seems like it's more geared to a celebration of
like, we can show racial or civil rights era movies without the vulgarity that ensued, and still get the point across, and make it approachable for younger audiences. And there's plenty of good media out there depicting a more stark reality, which is neither is better than the other. Both are just approachable to different audiences. So
it's the nature of art.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, before I put my foot even farther in my mouth, let's wrap this up. So before we go, if you guys like what you hear and you want to support the podcast, my stupid opinions notwithstanding, the easiest way to do that is to go over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. Last time you were here, Fekkes, we mentioned that you
it was good being here again. I appreciate you always inviting me on.
Is that what your review says? Because I haven't checked. It's it's really easy.
Get around to you and the chive. What's pestering me?
So anyway, the more ratings and reviews we get, the easier it will be for people to find the show in iTunes' search results and expand our reach to, maybe having, as wide a reach as some of the comedy podcasts depicted in Earbuds, the documentary. And hey, if you guys want to support the show with your wallet, you can always do that by clicking the donate button on obsessiveviewer.com for a one-time donation, or by clicking the donate link in the show notes of this episode, which can be found at obsessiveviewer.com/OV194. And you can also become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, where you can choose from several different reward tiers. Any donations made will help pay the fees to keep the podcast running. And, and keep my cat fed. Not really. It's all going toward the podcast. So on that note, thank you, Fekkes, for once again coming over and
thank you for having me. It's always enjoyable.
Nice. That is good to hear. I'm glad. So on that note, next week we're going to be doing our Starbase Indie episode is going to be released. Our panel is on the feed. So until next time, thank you guys for listening. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time.
So,
right.
No, of course it's going to be bought.
Sure. More of a tertiary or whatever question, side tangent here. Do you guys have independent DVD collections?
I'm glad you brought that up, Matt.
Yeah. How does that work?
Well, here
I ask as a single man.
There are movies in her collection that I allow to mingle in mine. There are other movies that I will not, because they're just god awful. And we had this discussion last week where I told her that I was thinking about reorganizing my DVD collection because right now it's in alphabetical. Well, that's fine, but I've come to the realization lately that sometimes I'm in the mood for a certain type of movies, and sometimes that's hard to look through in an alphabetical order. So I was thinking about breaking it down into genre.
Nice.
And she is so anti that.
Really?
And I'm like, well, let's be honest. So the 400 some odd movies, 97% of them are mine. So I should be able, she's like, well, it's just easy for me to find in alphabetical order. It's like, I get that, but it'll be alphabetized within the genre.
Right.
So I think I'll still do it.
I don't know. Sometimes I might have to side with her, because sometimes I am really sometimes I'll sit there and think I am really in the mood for a J movie.
That's a weird thing. Oh, you're being facetious. Okay.
I am.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. That did not land. Yeah, that did not land at all. Abort.
Jay and Silent Bob, man.
Yeah. I should have chose a different letter. But anyway, interesting.
Yeah. I might do it regardless. Sit down with a 12-pack of beer one day and just go to town.
I approve. Yeah. I need to do that with my collection. My problem is I just don't have, that shelf space is not. I'm scared to go through my collection because I know that I'm not going to have enough shelf space for everything. I have bins of DVDs that I want to get rid of. I was
going to say, I might purge some of my collection, which 5 years ago would have been an unfathomable thought. But now I'm like, man, you know what? I'm really never going to watch Alf season 1 and 3.
Yeah.
I have those. I did not purchase those. They were purchased as gag gifts, but I kept them.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I'll get rid of them. When am I going to? Yeah, when are we going to watch this?
Yeah.
So
yeah, even just eyeballing my collection, I have movies that I bought when I worked at Blockbuster senior year of high school that I'm never going to watch again, probably. The remake of Assault on Precinct 13. I saw it in the theater and never watched it again, and I own it on DVD.
I bought Brotherhood of the Wolf because I was so into that movie.
Sure.
Because it's so good. And I haven't seen it since high school.
Wow.
Huh. I might watch it again to see how I feel about it these days. But, have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's a French movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, never.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway,
yeah, that was, I'll probably throw that at the end.
Yeah.
And also, just as a brief thing, my collection becomes more about collecting rather than movies I like. Like, okay, if
mine absolutely do. And I look at it this way. While I may not watch this movie 20 times before I die, I buy it out of a sense of respect for the movie. Like, I enjoy the movie. I want to give monetary value to that movie, support it, so I will purchase that movie. Well, I may watch it once for the rest of my life. That's fine. I approved so much of this movie that, I want to add it to my collection.
Right. Absolutely. And special features are also a big thing. Like, I double dipped on the Lord of the Rings extended editions on Blu-ray because, that was more just I wanted it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I got it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I got rid of the DVDs as soon as I got them on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah. I'm in the spin. I need to sell my DVDs. That's what I want to do. Is I want to sell a ton of my DVDs. Like, go on Amazon and sell them that way, and then just put all the money I make into the Obsessive Viewer checking account. So,
not a bad idea.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, this is all the stinger. So I'm going to take a break here, and then we'll go back to rounding up Fantastic Beasts.
Thank you for listening to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at ovpodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast app. The Obsessive Viewer's theme song is An Eclipse of Events and is provided by Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. You can find that and more great music from them on iTunes and like their Facebook page at facebook.com/loudlikemusic. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. You can email the hosts individually at Matt, Tiny, or Mike at obsessiveviewer.com, or send an email to the podcast in general at podcast@obsessiveviewer.com. Check out the Obsessive Viewer blog at obsessiveviewer.com, where we post movie and TV reviews and the occasional editorial about the business of entertainment. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer and follow us on Twitter at obsessiveviewer, at obsessivetiny, and at IamMikeWhite. If you want more obsessive content in your life, check out our sister site, obsessivebooknerd.com, for book reviews, author spotlights, and a general celebration of reading. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the podcatcher of your choice. Again, thank you so much for listening. We love you. Be excellent to each other.